The mining station on Epsilon 7 wasn't built for comfort. Alex Morrison had learned that truth during his first winter on the ice moon. And now, 3 years into his assignment as construction foreman, he'd made peace with the perpetual cold that seeped through every seal and joint of the prefabricated structures. The wind howled outside the main habitat dome, carrying ice crystals that struck the reinforced windows like tiny bullets. Alex stood at those windows now, reviewing the day's progress reports on his datapad. The expansion project was behind schedule. Again, corporate wouldn't be happy, but corporate hadn't tried building anything in negative 60-degree temperatures with equipment that froze solid if you stopped moving for more than 10 minutes. A flash of movement caught his eye. Something large was approaching through the blizzard, moving with an awkward, desperate gait. Alex squinted, then rushed to the external cameras, cycling through feeds until he found a clear view. What in the actual... He breathed. 3 figures struggled through the storm. The largest stood perhaps 12 feet tall, though it was hunched against the wind. Actual scales covered its body, shimmering between deep purple and blue even in the dim light. Wings, tattered and torn, were folded tight against its back. 2 smaller versions of the creature followed, no bigger than human children, clinging to the larger one's sides. Dragons. Honest-to-God dragons were approaching his mining station. Alex had heard stories, of course. Everyone in the outer colonies had. The Dracosians were one of the galaxy's oldest species, proud and powerful, with technology that made human innovations look like stone tools. They were also, according to every briefing Alex had ever received, completely uninvolved in human affairs. They didn't trade, didn't communicate, and certainly didn't ask for help. Yet here they were, collapsing against his habitat dome. By the time Alex cycled through the airlock with 2 of his crew members, the dragons had fallen. The larger one, clearly female, had wrapped herself around the 2 younglings, her wings spread like a shield against the brutal wind. Frost covered her scales and her breathing came in shallow, desperate gasps. "Boss, regulations say we shouldn't," started Marcus, one of the welders. "Regulations can freeze solid for all I care," Alex cut him off. "Help me get them inside." It took all 6 members of the night shift to move the dragons into the cargo bay. It was the only space large enough, and Alex had them crank the heaters to maximum. The mother dragon, he'd started thinking of her as a mother, though he had no idea if that was accurate, barely moved as they laid her down on thermal blankets. The younglings whimpered, a sound that struck Alex as disturbingly mammalian. "Someone get Rose down here," Alex ordered. "If anyone can figure out their biology, it's her." Rose Chen arrived 15 minutes later, her medical kit slung over one shoulder and curiosity bright in her eyes. The station's chief medical officer was technically only qualified to treat humans, but she'd patched up more alien wildlife than anyone cared to count. "Well," she said, kneeling beside the mother dragon, "this is definitely not in my training manual." She worked quickly, scanning, analyzing, muttering to herself. Alex watched the younglings huddle together, their eyes startlingly intelligent, startlingly afraid, tracking Rose's every movement. "Hypothermia," Rose announced finally. "Severe malnutrition. These tears in her wings are infected. Alex, they haven't eaten in days, maybe weeks, and her core temperature is dropping below safe levels. At least what I think are safe levels based on what little data exists on Dracosian physiology." "Can you help them?" Rose met his eyes. "I can try, but I'm going to need supplies we don't have and time. Corporate's not going to authorize—" "Let me worry about corporate," Alex said firmly. Over the next 72 hours, the mining station transformed into an impromptu sanctuary. Rose worked miracles with limited resources, synthesizing medications based on educated guesses and research pulled from fragmentary xenobiology databases. Alex's crew, initially skeptical, threw themselves into helping. They rigged additional heaters, fabricated larger thermal blankets, and even managed to hunt some of the local ice-dwelling creatures that, it turned out, dragons found palatable. The mother dragon, who they'd learned was named Cerithix, when she finally regained enough strength to communicate through a hastily programmed translator, told them a story that made Alex's blood boil. Her family had been exiled. A political dispute in the Dracosian hegemony had gone wrong, and Cerithix had backed the losing side. The punishment was exile to Epsilon 7, a moon the Dracosians knew was barely habitable. They'd expected her to die quietly, taking her younglings with her. It was meant to send a message to others who might oppose the ruling council. Your people turned their backs on children? Alex asked, disgust evident in his voice. Sarithix's translator crackled. Your species would do the same in our position. Power demands sacrifice. No, Alex said flatly. No, it doesn't. Humans have done plenty of terrible things, but we've spent the last few centuries learning that's not how civilization works. By day 5, the younglings, Crix and Sha'ara, were exploring the cargo bay with renewed energy. They'd started following Marcus around, fascinated by his welding torch. Sarithix could stand again, though her wings would need surgery beyond Rose's capabilities to fully heal. That's when the message came through from Dracosian space. The transmission was audio only, delivered in flawless English. Human Station Epsilon 7 Charlie. You are harboring criminals of the hegemony. Surrender them immediately or face consequences. Alex stared at the comm panel, then looked at Sarithix. She'd gone very still, her eyes closed. What are the consequences? Alex asked the empty air. The response came an hour later. Economic sanctions. Potential military action. Your species cannot afford to interfere. Alex gathered his crew, all 15 of them exhausted from double shifts and stress. He explained the situation, laid out the risks. Corporate would crucify him. The Dracosians might actually make good on their threats. Their careers, possibly their lives, were on the line. Boss, said Marcus, what do you want to do? Alex looked at Crix and Sha'ara, watching them play fight in the corner of the cargo bay. Children who'd almost died for someone else's politics. We tell them no, he said simply. The crew nodded, one by one. The response Alex sent back was brief. These are not criminals. They are refugees. Under human law and basic morality, they are under our protection. Come try to take them. Nothing happened for 3 days. Then a Dracosian ship appeared in orbit, not a warship, but a small diplomatic vessel. The dragon who emerged, larger and more ornately decorated than Sarithix, introduced himself as High Chancellor Morazan. He met with Alex personally, studying the human with eyes that had witnessed millennia. You would risk your career, your station, your species' relationship with the hegemony. For 3 dragons you do not know? Morazan asked. Yes, Alex said without hesitation. Because it's the right thing to do. Morazan was silent for a long moment. Then he did something Alex would never have expected. The ancient dragon bowed his head. We have forgotten, Morazan said quietly, what it means to be compassionate. We have lived so long, become so powerful that we lost sight of why civilization matters. You humans, barely out of your cradle, have reminded us of something essential. Sarithix's exile is revoked. She and her family will be welcomed home, and the hegemony owes you a debt. Alex shrugged, uncomfortable with the formality. No debt, just do better by your people. Weeks later, after Sarithix and her children had left with promises to return, after the Dracosian hegemony had publicly announced reforms to their exile system, after corporate had reluctantly given Alex a commendation instead of the termination he'd expected, Rose found him at those same windows staring out at the ice. Thinking about dragons? She asked. Thinking about humans, Alex replied. We're stubborn. We're reckless. We're way too emotional for our own good. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what this galaxy needs. Rose smiled. Humanity, fuck yeah? Alex laughed. Yeah, something like that. Outside, the storm had finally cleared, and the stars shone cold and bright over the ice moon, where a human foreman had taught dragons what mercy looked like.